Hey guys, in this video I'll show you how to bind the Hobby King FP100, also known as WLToys V911, with the Turnigy 9x and the ER9x firmware. Before we get started, let's go into the radio setup and show you which version I'm using. I'm using revision 819 here. Also make sure your sticks are calibrated, and I'm going to set up the controls for mode 2. So if you go into controls, this is where you're going to set up which mode you're going to use. Mode 2 is the most common, where throttle's on the left. Let's get into the model select screen by holding down the menu button and then selecting a free memory slot. Hit select, and let's go back in again by holding down the menu button and then go to model setup. The first thing you want to do is name the model. You can name your model whatever you want. I'm going to name it V911. I'm going to delete all these characters I'm not going to be using here, and then I'm going to type in V911. After that, you want to go into mixer, and this is where we're going to set up the controls for the helicopter. Channel 1 should be aileron, and this is where we set a weight of 50. Next, we'll set up channel 2, which is elevator, and you want the value here to be -50. Channel 3 is throttle, and it should be at 100. We don't have to edit this. Channel 4, we want it to be rudder, and we want to set this at 50. Then you want to go through all these mixer channels, make sure there's nothing there, and then just exit out of here. Next, get into heli setup, and you want the swatch type to be 120. The last thing we'll set up is the throttle cut switch on your 9x through the safety switches. Go to channel 3 and enter a value for the throttle switch at -125. This way, when you flip the switch, the throttle will automatically go down to the lowest value, which is -125, and basically disable the throttle. Those are basically the minimum settings you need to set up for the V911, but if you want to alter the behavior or how sensitive your controls are, you can go into the Expo or DR setting there and tweak it to your liking. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to bind the helicopter to your 9x. To put your Turnigy 9x into binding mode, on the back of the transmitter there's a bind button. What you do is you press the button and then turn on the transmitter, and that will put it into bind mode. Next thing you want to do is power your helicopter by plugging in the battery. The light should be blinking really quickly at first, and then once it's paired up with the Turnigy 9x, the LED light should start blinking slower, like about once a second, and that's when you know it's bound. You could turn off the transmitter and then remove the battery. Then what you want to do is to turn on the transmitter and then plug in the battery. The LED light should go solid once the helicopter is communicating with your transmitter. The next thing we'll test is the throttle cut switch, which we programmed earlier in the video. When you flip the switch, you'll notice that it disables the throttle completely. This prevents your helicopter from taking off if you accidentally bump your throttle stick. And that completes binding your V911 with your Turnigy 9x. If you ever need to bind your V911 back to the original transmitter, this is how you do it. You move your throttle stick all the way to the bottom lowest point, and then you plug in your battery. You'll notice the LED light blinking really fast at first, and once it slows down to about once per second, it's in binding mode. On your transmitter, make sure the throttle is all the way at the lowest point, and then hold down the right stick as well while you turn on the transmitter. The LED light on the helicopter should go solid, and that's when you know that the binding process is complete, and you can test it by moving the controls. So that's all it takes to bind the V911 to the original transmitter it came with. When you're done flying, take out the battery and turn off the transmitter. I hope you found this video useful, and if it did, comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.